Today I'll be showing you how to make watercolor holiday ornament cards. So I will list the supplies that I use, but you can use whatever you have available. I have my watercolor paper here, an eraser, some craft or masking tape, a ruler, a pencil, as well as my watercolors, a jar to make perfect circles, a paper towel, scissors, my paintbrush, and my water, of course. I will be starting off by masking the line with the gold, either washi tape or whatever kind of craft tape you have, because we will be writing happy holidays on that, or whatever you choose to write. And I'm also going to use my micron pen or any regular pen to do the writing. The watercolor paper that I use comes in a 12 by 9 inch size, so I cut them into 4 shapes, and that comes out to be a nice card size, which is 6 inches by 4.5. But again, you can create it any size you'd like, or just work with whatever you have. I'm going to start by masking off the center of the card, because we are going to work horizontally. I did just eyeball this. Of course, you could use your ruler to make it exact, but I'm happy with how it came out. And then I just cut the end of my washi craft or art tape. They're all the same thing, but they have different names. You want to make sure that it's pressed down, because we are using that to mask the area where, again, we're going to end up putting the words. Personally, washi tape specifically has always worked the best for me. I've had some other tape where I've had issues of the watercolor bleed, but it really just comes down to personal preference. So I'm happy with this tape that I used, and I put that on both of my cards. The size I have here, I believe, is about a quarter or 1/8 of an inch. I just feel like it's the perfect size for like the small writing with the size of these cards, but you can always use larger or bigger. There is multiple different sizes of these types of tapes. I'm going to start by making a black ornament. So I got some water on my brush. I'm sorry it kind of cut off with the camera here, but I am putting the water in my black watercolor palette. And I want to just get some nice pigment on there, and then I will end up painting this on the top of my jar. But you know, when you are working with watercolors, from when they're dry, it takes a moment to just activate them with some water. Then I'm grabbing my jar, and again, sorry, it kind of cut out, but I am just using the color from my brush and painting the top of the jar to make that perfect circle. So you do have to work quickly, and then I stamped it to the very left side over the gold tape, and that is the outline of one of our ornaments. Again, you do want to work quickly, so I dipped my brush to pull some more of the water and use the residual black pigment that was left on it. So now we just want to pull the color from the sides and the extra paint and water that's on our brush and fill in the ornament. You can see I left a little highlight on the top. You know, it just gives it more of that form, 3-dimensional effect, completely optional. And you can do it at any angle. I just generally do it to the top, more to the right. That's just my thing. You can see my other examples. And then you can see I am doing the same thing again with the black. I like to alternate using 2 colors, having each one. So I'm kind of eyeballing it, and then again stamping the jar down on the paper. And then I just like to tap my jar in the water just to clear off the excess paint. Grab my paintbrush, dip it in the water, and then again pull the residual pigment from the side of the ornament. Since we will be overlapping colors, and just the nature of watercolor, every time water touches any pigment, it will activate it, so there will be inherently color mixing. So I do suggest using, regardless of whatever colors, if you use 2 or 3, colors that look good together, versus if you use complementary colors, you could end up having some gray and kind of muddy looking areas. But it really does just come down to playing around with the color combinations, also the brand of paints that you have. So again, it is personal preference and also just a matter of experimenting to see what works and what you like. I always make multiple cards for multiple people, so I do like to work on these in batches. Like you can see, I did the blue and the purple ones before I started recording this, so that I could set them out to dry while I worked on the other ones and kind of do it like a factory line if you want to think about that. During this time, I was actually making 8 at one time, and between the time that it took me to make each ornament and whatnot, when I was ready for the next step, the other ones were dry, so I didn't really have to have any waiting time for drying, but you can also use a blow dryer or a heat gun if you are just working on maybe 1 or 2, or you might just have to wait in between each color for them to dry to avoid any possible excess bleeding of the colors. So while the pink and black ornaments go ahead and dry, I took my blue and purple ones back, and now I will be doing the 3rd and 4th ornaments. So the same process, I'm gonna wet my brush, dip it in whatever color I choose to use, then paint it the rim of the jar, or you could also use anything that's perfectly round, a cup, really anything, or the bottom of a jar. This one I happen to have around my house. It was the perfect size for the card that I was working on, so this is my go-to one. So you can see, like I mentioned before, I am using green, so I'm kind of sticking with cool colors for these 2 cards specifically, because again, if you use complementary colors, like opposite colors on the color wheel, or colors that don't generally blend well together, it might look a little muddy, and the color won't come out very well. So you can even see that green is starting to blend with the purple a little bit. I think it looks very pretty. But so yeah, again, just try to be cautious of the colors that you do combine together. You can also see that I am positioning the jar with the green lower than I did with the purple ornaments. This is to create some variety, good old principle of design, and visual interest. I mean, you can have them all at the same level, but generally if you have ornaments hanging up or something hanging, sometimes the heights are different, again, to create more contrast and visual interest and variety, because we will be adding with our pen or whatever you use to make it look like they are hanging off a string. And then you can see I push the blue and green one up to let it dry, and then I'm going to create green ornaments on the blue one as well, and again follow the same process. Wet the brush, put the color on the rim of the jar, stamp it down, dip my brush in water, pull the residual pigment and fill it in, and it also leaving that little highlight. So once the paint and the paper has dried, I'm going to now remove the masking tape, and that will have, well, if it worked and there's not excess bleeding, you can see it left a nice little white line through the ornaments, and that's where we can write happy holidays or whatever words you might choose to do. If you want to make a birthday card or something, this is a cool thing that you can do if you're combining writing along with an image. It just kind of gives it a nice effect, I think. Now I am going to use a silver paint pen. You can use any, I just like silver. I also have gold, couldn't find my gold one, so I went with silver. You could use paint on this, but it's just quicker for me to use a silver paint pen, or you could use a marker. And I am just making kind of little rectangular / square, those tops of the ornaments that are usually metal. And then I am taking my micron pen and just creating a little half circle on top to represent like those little metal pieces that usually the string or whatever you're using to hang up an ornament attaches to. Once I create those little arches over each of the ornaments, I'm just extending the line to make it look like it's hanging from the string. And now at this point, this is where you can write whatever message you'd like. I personally really like writing in cursive and kind of stretched out to make use of the whole area that I have to write, but you know, your font choice, how you write it and everything is completely up to you, but this style I particularly like writing the words Happy Holidays on. And I am, again, using one of my Micron pens here. I think it is a 0.5 or 0.5, but you can use a regular pen, colored pencil, any writing materials. Again, completely up to you. You can use whatever you have available or change and customize it however you like. This is just a little thing that I like to add at the end. I actually do have a shimmery kind of metallic watercolor palette. So after I've written everything and everything has dried, I do go in and pull, like you can see, I pulled a little bit of a whitish pink from that palette, and then just going over the 2 pink ornaments. I have, and you can actually create the ornaments just with shimmery, very pigmented paint as well, rather than doing the matte color and then adding the shimmer. But it just comes down to personal preference. And again, you can make all of them shimmery as well, but just to, again, stick with and create some variety, I like just alternating and doing a couple of them, because not all ornaments are shimmery. I mean, you do think of a lot of ornaments with like glitter and shimmer, so just to, give it some visual interest and change it up, and so it's not all the same, I just alternate with them. I personally love little cards and handmade kind of artisan things with rounded edges, so I do have this special paper cutter. You see I have 3 different options. I like the most rounded corner, so if you do have one of these, you can get them at Michael's, Amazon, any craft store. You just stick the corner of the paper, depending on the shape you want, press it down, and then the little metal parts cut it. It's easier if you do it facing down, but I just wanted to give you a visual to see how it works. So after I've written everything and everything is dried, I like to just go ahead and do that on all of the corners of my cards that I make. And then you can write a message on the back, customize it however you'd like, but there is a nice handmade holiday ornament card.